Hi guys, welcome to Robin Hood Diaries. Tonight, as promoed, this is basically going to be about how I went from essentially some club kid drag queen to an actual county official, um, all in one fell swoop. So it's not going to be some resume show. I'm not going to be like running down, well, then I did this and I worked for this and suddenly I was a social worker. It's a lot more involved than that, but I will try and keep things brisk. I've been trying to. So let's dive in. Leading off from one of my 650,000 videos, one of them or several of them address, of course, my partner who passed away. We were both about 20 from AIDS, very tragically in my arms. Then again with his brother, who was my best friend, again, tragedy over 3 years. So in that time, I did plenty of caregiving because we're talking late 80s. So you can imagine, kids, if you Google it, late 80s, 90, whoa, that was horrible, horrible, horrible time. We already knew all about it, but we didn't know what the F to do with it. I mean, they were pumping my partners full of antibiotics. Hello, there's PrEP now. Can you imagine? Huh. Anyway, and there's a big study called the Young Men's Study (YMS), which I was hired into. Which actually, to be honest with you guys, much of the research that went into that study, that Maverick study, that I was one of four people, actually basically is why you're able to have PrEP. So there you go. So I'm stuck in this rut, for lack of a better word, after Tim and John passed. As we know from a full episode, I was a phone sex worker as a woman named Angela for 2 years to pay my rent and put food on my table. Then I shifted over to being a bouncer at a gay bar called Trunks in West Hollywood. And you can only imagine the in-between times. So I had some luck with the Advocate. We all know, we all know the Advocate is basically the premier gay and lesbian, LGBTQA plus magazine. And oh my God, what, like 40 years? I don't know, it could be 50 years? Yeah. Anyway, big, huge magazine. Huge then. Point being, they had classifieds, right? So they had classified sections. Um, these were hugely popular and comprehensive. Everything from hookups in the personal classifieds to all kinds of weird jobs to all kinds of weird ass shit. So I was prone to looking into the Advocate for jobs. Where do you think I got phone sex? Where do you think I got, bouncer at a gay bar? I mean. So lo and behold, I'm cruising through, no pun intended, the Advocate classifieds. Now, I had some luck there. Blind item. I took out, to be honest with you guys, there was a period of time after John passed, I took out some like Lonely Hearts ads. Partially kind of I wanted to date like in a normal way because I wasn't a bar person. And partially again, there was that kind of prankster silly side of me. So I took out a very generic ad in the Advocate, and somebody answered. Guess what? And that person is now a huge television mogul in the television industry in a very niche department of the television industry, a mogul. Anyway, he answered my ad. We went on a blind date that kind of went nowhere, but he introduced me to the underground. Now, I'm just going to use that because I don't know what other word to say for LA. So, in introducing me into the underground, then Sean is now in this rut, looking for work, gliding into the underground as a regular old gay guy who's creative and has, I don't know, whatever. I was a mess. So I slide in there. Now I have blue hair. Okay, so now I have blue hair and I'm wearing jewelry, running around town. This is 93-ish in West Hollywood. So it's not club kitty stuff. It's draggy, clubby, kitty. I don't know, guys. It was a weird time, early '90s in West Hollywood. So underground, right? So I'm kind of in that, kind of in this, whatever. So had luck in the Advocate, had the blind date, got into the underground, whatever. So, lo and behold, in the Advocate of all places, next to the sex ads, is an ad from Los Angeles County Epidemiology Department. And okay, well, whatever. I circled dance hall girl. I might as well circle that. So I interviewed. This is a maverick study, as I told you, that is responsible for a lot of what you know and everybody knows about HIV since 1993, which is when we commenced the study, myself and three other guys. The county epidemiology department was desperate to figure things out with boots on the ground, meaning regular kids, guys, to go out into the streets all over West Hollywood and Hollywood, throughout like cockroaches with clipboards like a FEMA person, asking, like cis guys on the corner of Western and Hollywood Boulevard that are, trying to sell you watches inside of their coat, do they have receptive ANALSEX with other guys? It was to establish many, much research analysis data that was critical to what you all know as PrEP, what you all know as educational materials, what you all know as everything. Basically, almost. Ask the CDC, that's who trained me. So now suddenly I get the job, right? I'm like, blue haired, like whatever, West Hollywood, like I can be there with a clipboard, like outside of Rage, like, ground zero, Boys Town, walking around with a clipboard and blue hair, asking guys and guys and guys and click, 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 if they want to have an interview and etc. Oh my God, and so on. So I was plucked. Now I'm this blue haired boy, former bouncer, phone sex operator, who is now being officiated. I have to go through county protocol. It is a boot camp. I am going all over, getting all kinds of identification cards, vetting, live scanning, all of this. Then the CDC team from Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, is it? Come out with their team to train us how to interview, how to ask, like, hi, what ethnicity do you identify with? A lot of y'all's political correctness came from the language and evaluation tools of studies much like that at that time. So, in addition, we had to do clinical work. Now, this is how my sort of clinical work talks starts. I do a lot of talk all over the friggin' place about my clinical hours and quasi-clinician type, activities in my career as a social worker. This is where it started. So they take the blue-haired kid and they throw him into South Central Los Angeles Hubert Humphrey Hospital. And I say blue-haired kid, meaning this is where I was in life. I'm like going on blind dates and whatever. So I'm there. I'm in. I guess I'm cool, or who knows? In '93 in West Hollywood, what was cool? Ask anybody. I don't know. Drag strip. That's all I wanted to do. Well, eventually. Hey, Bobby. So, so here I am. I'm being trained by the CDC teams coming out. Then I'm thrown into South Central Los Angeles and told you're going to be a phlebotomist. Now, this is called venipuncture, and you have to be state licensed to, certified to be a certified venipuncturist for the state county health department. So we are thrown into this clinic in South Central. I'm poking babies with little teeny needles, and kids are slugging me, in my leg, and it's one after the other. This was trial by fire training. It's like poke 'em, get it right, get it wrong. We need you to do this in 3 weeks. So as part of that study, we had to do the blue-haired boy with the clipboard hello, the random from Hollywood bad neighborhoods to nice boys town, cozy little cafe areas. Do you have receptive ANALSEX? And questions even more complicated than that. So it was interesting. This study went on for a year. Well, it actually continued for a decade or more because it just kept like sucking data that, again, y'all know is prophylactic care and preventative care, education, and all of that good stuff. You're welcome. Anyway, it's been my life's work, guys, not just this. So here I am now, this blue haired quasi clinician, and we have this fat ass van, I mean, 35-foot like schooner driving around West Hollywood, where I met my husband because he was a parking official in Boys Town. Anyway, that's later. So, here I am with needles running around because what you had to do is you had to nail down the patient, the subject, and then you had to vet them on the street with your evaluation tool very quickly with blue hair and friendly smiles. Mm. So then you drag them over to the 30-foot schooner and you put them in, and then you undergo more not counseling, but like vetting kind of stuff. Then I got to do all the pokes and sucks and blood and, differentiating from vials and category. They trained us like pharmacists basically. Then you're done. The protocol, you guys, by the way, can you imagine? You go to Walgreens, you find this shit out now. Back then, I had to give them like an appointment kind of ID, time and date, code number, whatever, because it was completely confidential, to come back to the schooner on wheels to get his test results. So he had to wait all this time, as we all did, long, excruciating, agonizing periods of time to find out if that poke turned up positive for you know what. So I had to do this. I ended up when I was doing like dozens and dozens of clinical hours telling 15-year-olds that they were like late stage AIDS. It was not fun. But we're fun tonight, right? I guess. So I'm running around, right? I'm doing this. And this is very strange dovetail because at that time I'm in the underground in this like blind datey weirdy way with that guy. Then I'm in this boots on the ground blue haired boy asking all kinds of weird ass, borderline fetishy questions randomly popping out with a clipboard on behalf of the Centers for Disease Control, on behalf of the Los Angeles County Epidemiology Department, the epidemiologist there to whom I reported as essentially a research analyst. No. My classification with the county was community worker level 2, I believe it was, which parlayed into all kinds of other things for me. So I'm out there, the blue haired club kid, now drag queen, because now this underground like thing that dovetailed with being like this clinician thing suddenly became this drag queen thing because the underground got so deep. It sucked me in, and I had an agenda. I wanted to write for those magazines that, I said were, all that anyone used in order to become what? What I did with those magazine articles that I wedged in as a drag queen to get in the scene to write for those magazines, fourth magazine I wrote for, provided primary information, boots on the ground about up-to-date HIV and AIDS related issues. So that's what I was doing as a drag queen towards the end. So I am now drag queen nurse. So I'm straddling all of this. I have a center spread in Spunk magazine, one of the magazines I did not write for, but that pursued me because the article was called from, it was called from ET to IV to TV, meaning the center, well, it was like 5 pages long. because I was drag queen nurse. And that meant from ET, the extraterrestrial, to IV, meaning I was doing clinical blood work, to TV, transvestite. I know, terribly inappropriate and misplaced and inaccurate. But so ET to IV to TV. That's what I sort of became known as. Gave a little bit too much information to that magazine about what we were all up to in West Hollywood, Ground Central, and all those naughty, bad, weird, fetishy, scary things that we were seeing on that study for the Centers for Disease Control. Yikes. And it just, I mean, guys, there was one point in the beginning, as good as a phlebotomist as I was, poor kid, gorgeous. I get him in this schooner on wheels that is a clinic, and I make a critical mistake. I have to do a second draw because it's extremely difficult to do phlebotomy. I was really good at it because I ended up having to do like 50 to 100 a day later in my clinical career. I poked this gorgeous boy, and I didn't go back in with a vacuum seal, and I poked it again, and too many pokes without a vacuum seal is going to cause bleeding. And I'll never forget that gorgeous kid laying in that chair, passed out momentarily, like this, like Christ, like the stigmata in this schooner with blood dripping down his arm. And it didn't horrify me, but hello, I'm right outside of rage. It's a little weird. So I got my other level 2 community worker for the epidemiology department of Los Angeles County to come and please help me because I just stabbed this gorgeous kid and he looks like Christ on the cross. So those are the kind of things that happened out in that whole pre-social worker, post-drag queen, spider web that I got stuck into between being a bouncer at gay clubs to being literally a county official. I mean, essentially I could walk into a 7-Eleven and say your hot dogs are old, sorry, we're closed. But it wasn't fun, but it made me who I am, and none of us can, well, I was going to say none of us can complain about that, but we got a lot to complain about where stuff put us, right? So that's where it put me. So, in conclusion, in all of that moving of that friggin' rolling schooner, 35-foot Winnebago that doubled as a clinic, there were parking issues, right? Of course, you're parking a whale in the middle of Boys Town. Yeah, there's going to be parking issues. So, not me, but a separate part of my team had to negotiate with the county, with the city parking enforcement department in order to make this thing fly. Well, guess who was in charge of the mission? Because he, my husband of 32 years plus, was and is a Master Sergeant First Class with the U.S. Army, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and injured friendly fire veteran, wartime. So he was working as a parking guy, running all the parking dudes. And I was on the corner with my blue hair, and I had my clipboard, and I told my co-worker one night, 3 a.m., I kept looking at this gorgeous parking guy, and I kept getting butterflies, and I kept getting weak in the knees. And I said to John, I finally said, look, I'm going to tell you something that I could be happy with for a very, very, very long time. And then just went about my business. Well, John told Michael that I had a crush on him. And Michael was very flattered, quite the gentleman. And he came over to me. And because I was technically at the intersection where the schooner thingy was, I was ticketable where I actually was. And he came up to me and I thought, I've seen this before. And he gave me a ticket. But the ticket said his days off. The ticket said his eye color, his phone number, his schedule, and a love note in the comments. So, whatever, 32 years later, here we are. Lots and lots and lots to tell, right? But as promised, tonight was basically how in the hell did Sean go from club kid, drag queen, gay bar bouncer, lost soul, widow, to nursey poo? Which then the upshot of all of that is I did leave that job. I was very ambitious in the civilian world because I had nothing to reinvent myself with except my experience in HIV. I had nothing. There was nothing for me. And I jumped ship there straight into clinical work. And then I was um, a psychosocial case worker for East Valley Community Health Center. I was in charge of 3 clinical HIV endeavors, and it was nothing but 100 blood draws a day and 150 interviews and shifting case management duties, and then led to social work and a million other things. So I'm going to leave you with that. I love you all. As you well know, I just keep spitting out new show ideas, especially today. So I'm going to have to go easy because I have a couple of the 6 degree chats lined up. And that's it, guys. Any complaints? Email me as always, seanfry66@gmail.com. It's open, it's welcome. I don't know how else to open my arms, but here, and I guess with that. Okay, have a good one wherever you are, whatever time it is. Be well, and why not do something I wouldn't do? Bye.